through that path?
Well, certainly, we've indicated for weeks now that it's time to reopen every other part of the Department of Homeland Security that does not relate to ICE or Donald Trump's violent, extreme mass deportation machine. We should not be holding the American people hostage, which is what the Trump administration and Republicans have decided to do. They've created chaos at airports all across the country, inconveniencing millions of Americans. For weeks, they forced TSA agents to work without pay. They've not funded FEMA. They're not funding the Coast Guard. They're not funding our cybersecurity professionals who are keeping the American people safe from cyber attacks and violations of their privacy or financial security. This is extraordinary what Republicans have unleashed with this DHS shutdown that I think is now in its 52nd day or so. There's a bipartisan bill that was passed by the Senate, not once, but twice, unanimously, every single Democrat, every single Republican. It will be strongly supported by House Democrats. And Mike Johnson knows that if he brings it to the floor, it will pass the House of Representatives overwhelmingly, so we can end the madness that Republicans have inflicted on the American people.
This is how democracies fail. Not with tanks in the streets, not with some dramatic collapse that makes history books overnight. It happens quietly. Flights get delayed. Security workers go unpaid. Government agencies stop functioning the way they should. And while everyone is distracted, power shifts. That's the real story. Not chaos, control. Because when systems stop working properly, someone else starts deciding how they should. And right now, that someone is a man driven less by strategy and more by a fragile ego that cannot tolerate losing. That's not leadership. That's a catastrophe waiting to unfold. Let's talk about Iran. Not the slogans, not the political theater designed to look tough on TV. The reality. Every escalation in the Middle East triggers a chain reaction. Oil markets spike, supply chains tighten, prices rise instantly. And guess who pays? Not the politicians, not the insiders making decisions behind closed doors. You do, at the gas station, at the grocery store, every single day. This is the quid pro quo of reckless geopolitics. They get power, you absorb the cost. And the most absurd part? It's presented as strength, when in reality, it's insecurity dressed up as dominance. Here's the contrast. On one side, working families trying to survive rising costs. On the other, a political system that benefits from instability, because chaos creates opportunity, and opportunity creates control. The more unstable things feel, the easier it becomes to reshape institutions, courts, federal agencies, oversight mechanisms, all quietly bending under pressure, not through force, but through erosion. That's the real threat, not one decision, but a pattern. Now here's where it gets almost laughable if it weren't so dangerous. Welcome to the unofficial MAGA Absurdity Awards. Category 1, Best Use of Taxpayer Money to Reward Loyalty. And the winner, a reported payout of over $1 million to Michael Flynn.
A couple of investigations I want to tell you about. The ranking member of the House Committee on the Judiciary has launched a review of the reported $1 million plus taxpayer payout to Michael Flynn, the ardent MAGA ally. Flynn, you'll recall, was charged with a federal crime in the first Trump administration. He was famously pardoned by Trump, filed a federal civil suit claiming damages later, and that case appears to be closed. A settlement appears to be approved. Money will change hands, a reported $1 million or more. Now the House Democratic Committee on the Judiciary, the Democratic members, want the...
Yes, the same Flynn who was charged with a federal crime, then conveniently pardoned, and now paid. That's not justice, that's a loyalty program. You don't even need writers for this. The quotes practically generate themselves. Rules are optional if you're powerful. Accountability is for the weak. Justice depends on your connections. It sounds like satire, but it's reality. And that's what makes it so dangerous, because once absurdity becomes normal, people stop questioning it. While all of this unfolds, you're being fed something else. Endless outrage, immigration fear cycles, cultural distractions, manufactured conflicts. Because if you're constantly reacting, you're not analyzing. And if you're not analyzing, you're not noticing. That's the game. keep the public emotional so they never see the system changing behind the scenes. Now connect the dots. The Flynn payout, the legal cases seeking massive taxpayer money.
Yes, we'll keep you updated. Also, the watchdog group, Citizen for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, a group that's been around here quite a long time, is investigating the possibility that Trump has already received taxpayer money, or there are plans to give Trump taxpayer money from the $230 million in damages he's seeking in the federal court system for his criminal prosecutions. Trump would have an awful lot of say over these things with control of the executive branch agencies and serving as a plaintiff in a lawsuit. The Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington wants records on this, and they have now filed a civil Federal Freedom of Information Act lawsuit to get those records.
The influence over federal agencies. This isn't random, it's a pattern, a system where power shields itself, where consequences become negotiable, where accountability depends on loyalty.
Keep you posted on that too. And I'll also note this, at the appeals court, the former January 6 prosecutors, a group of them, have filed a brief in support of Democratic Congresswoman LaMonica McIver of New Jersey. It's almost a year ago that McIver was arrested after a confrontation outside the immigration facility in Newark. She is charged with a federal crime by the Trump administration. The January 6 prosecutors, former Department of Justice attorneys, filed a brief in her behalf saying, in so many words, the executive branch plainly views the January 6 defendants as its supporters, and it accordingly engineered favorable outcomes for them. Meanwhile, Congresswoman McIver challenged the administration and was charged based on far less serious conduct. We'll see where that case moves next, but the Congresswoman is still a federal criminal defendant, in addition to being the Democratic representative.
That's not governance. That's a closed loop of protection.
Canada that are hurting the American people. A handful of Republicans joined us when we brought the resolution connected to Trump's reckless, costly war of choice in Iran. A handful of Republicans joined us. We need to convince a few more to join us for us to successfully pass this war powers resolution that would end this conflict upon our return to Congress. So we're going to continue to press our case, but throughout this Congress, Democrats have on several occasions successfully governed from the minority as if we were in the majority, because we're standing on the side of the American people.
And here's the real question. What happens when the same person controlling the system is also benefiting from it? While this is happening, the Department of Homeland Security is in disarray, workers unpaid, airports disrupted, security systems strained for weeks, and we're told it's just politics. But let's be honest, does this look like incompetence or does it look like strategy? Because instability creates fear, and fear creates control. Drop a comment. Do you think this chaos is accidental or intentional? Now here's where it gets darker. 3 million documents still unreleased. 3 million. That's not a delay, that's a decision.
If she chooses
The
not
House
to.
Democrats, the opposition party, are the ones that actually compelled her to receive this subpoena in the first place. That was an effort that was led by Democrats, and a handful of Republicans have joined us. Now, Pam Bondi has been fired. She deserves to be fired. She's the most corrupt attorney general in modern American history, a complete and total disgrace. But just because she's been fired doesn't mean that she doesn't have to comply with the subpoena, because we still need to understand why she was involved in a massive cover-up. There are 3 million documents that still have not been released, connected to legislation that was passed related to the Epstein Transparency Act. And we owe it to the survivors who have fought so courageously for both transparency and accountability to hear from the highest levels of the Department of Justice. That includes the former Attorney General.
Because information is power, and hidden information, that's leverage. So the real question isn't just what's inside those files, it's who benefits from keeping them hidden.
Is there any tool or leverage you could employ if she just ghosts you?
If she decides to ghost us, then I think we're going to have to move to hold her in criminal contempt. The reality is, in anything...
Because silence is never neutral. Now we get to the heart of it, the hypocrisy. 2 systems, 1 country. System 1, you follow the rules. Miss a payment, immediate penalties, no negotiation. System 2, you have power, you have connections. You break the rules, delay, deflect, dismiss. That's the contrast. And once you see it, you can't ignore it. Picture this: a plumber works long hours, pays taxes, follows the law, because they have no choice. Now compare that to a political insider. Access, influence, protection. Same system, different outcomes. That's not fairness, that's hierarchy. Drop a comment. When did this double standard become normal? This isn't about one man. It's about a system that rewards loyalty over integrity, power over accountability, control over fairness. And the most dangerous part? It doesn't arrive loudly. It creeps in, one decision at a time, one exception at a time, one absurdity at a time, until one day you realize the rules don't apply equally anymore. That's the catastrophe. Not chaos, not conflict, but a system where justice depends on who you are. And if that doesn't concern you, it should. Because once accountability disappears, it doesn't come back easily. And by the time most people notice, it's already gone.